Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for another episode of Non-Corporate Girls. Cate Luzio is the founder and CEO of Luminary, a global membership-based professional education and networking platform created to uplift, upskill, and propel women forward through all phases of their professional journey. Luminary launched in 2018 with the mission to create an ecosystem of high-touch engagement to address and impact the systemic challenges faced by women across all industries and sectors. Before starting Luminary, Cate spent two decades in financial services, leading global multi-billion-dollar businesses. She has been recognized as one of Forbes' Next 1,000 Entrepreneurs in 2021 and a top 100 female founder by Inc. in 2019 and 2021. She has been featured as an expert in top-tier financial, business, and lifestyle media. And today she adds to those accolades by joining the Non-Corporate Girls. And we're so happy to have her. Welcome, everyone, Cate.
I love that you said that. That was amazing.
We had to throw ourselves in there.
Yes, we're so excited to have you, Cate. And just so you know, this is season 6, episode 118. And the title of this episode is Illuminate the Space You're In with Cate Luzio.
Oh, by the way, that is an incredible remarkable achievements on your side.
Thank you. Yeah, no easy task.
Does it make your head spin sometimes? How many of these you've done?
Yes, it's a lot.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I am proud to be on it.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's just jump in. We want to start every episode, or we actually start every episode with a positive note. And so we'd love to know, what is your positive note for the week or month?
Well, to me, for the month, right? This is March. It's Women's History Month.
Yeah.
So obviously celebrating, but also acknowledging that we still have a long way to go. We had our Women's History Month summit last week at Luminary, both online and in person, where I got to meet the both of you. And we had over 600 attendees between in person and virtual, and just an incredible day of connection and learning and content. And for me, that has to be at least one of the high points of the year, not just this past month.
Love that.
So exciting. It was so great.
Yes. And the connection piece, most importantly, that was really great.
Right. And we forget how important that is. And I think virtual is great, and we love virtual, and it's allowed us to build our business and be global. But that connection, whether it's online or in person, is just can't be underestimated. It's so important to our careers, our businesses, everything that we do.
No, and it stood out. I think it was a panelist or a participant who was there that said the word sisterhood, and I couldn't agree more. It really felt like that.
Totally. And that's why I left all those years of corporate America to build what we've built.
Well, thank you, Cate.
And so that's a good segue for us into our first question for you. So, on our pod, we love to explore the journey of someone going from what we call the 9 to 5, which is working in corporate, to going to the 5 to 9, which is being a founder and entrepreneur. And so we'd love for you to just talk a little bit about your corporate beginnings, as I like to call them, and really share what that life was like for you in the financial industry, and how did you pivot to create Luminary?
So I'll start with a statement that I loved my corporate career. I spent the first part of my career, when I graduated college, in nonprofit. I was a poli-sci major, and then it was the original internet boom, something that you guys don't remember, but it was the original internet boom. And I got a job at a startup, not even knowing what the hell I was doing, but it was a really great entry point into business, going from sort of political science to nonprofit to tech, and did that for a couple of years, got my master's degree at night, and was recruited into banking. And those couple of years in the startup world, doing kind of everything and being the right-hand woman of so many different people within the company, and learning kind of on the job, applying that into financial services, because I had no background in finance, accounting, nothing, was critical to me even getting the job in banking, and then staying in banking for almost 20 years. A lot of that was listening, learning a ton, shadowing people, not always being open to rolling up my sleeves and learning and working really, really hard and understanding how to navigate big organizations. I went from a 7-person startup to a 28,000 person bank to a 250,000 person bank. And so you learn very quickly how important relationships are as you build your career.
That's so interesting. I would have never thought that you didn't have a financial background, especially one of the webinars you gave in person that day was about creating your business plan. And you were speaking about your corporate, experience then. So it just goes to speak to sometimes you can just land where you belong and you'll thrive regardless.
Totally. And also,
go ahead.
I was going to say transferable skills. You talked a lot about your transferable skills, which I think is the core to being able to like navigate various industries and roles.
100%. And I think I didn't recognize that. Obviously, you never do when you're starting your career. But when I was being recruited into the bank, one of the senior managers said to me, we like your profile. We like what you've done before. We can teach you the technical stuff. Mm-hmm. We want everything else that you have to offer, and we want you to thrive, right? We're kind of plucking you out of nowhere in a sense to hopefully have you build a career here. That bank went on to get bought, and then I went on to get recruited at JP Morgan and then HSBC. So that really was the launch pad for me. I say this all the time. If I had never spent all of those years in corporate America, I would not have been able to build and launch Luminary.
I love that you double down on that, because a lot of times people are often like, well, do we just start, or do we need to have that corporate job, or like, what are the experiences going to be? And, I think a lot of our guests also show that like, there's a trajectory here, and there's a lot of things that you learn along the way that's going to take you into your like entrepreneurial journey. So let's talk about Luminary. How did you decide to start this?
I a crazy idea, right? So I had, I'd spent all this time in banking, and I really did. I say this all the time, never say never. You never know if I go back to a bank at some point in my life. Mm-hmm. I love what I did. It was an incredible, kind of accelerated career, especially not having the finance and accounting or banking background. But on the side of my desk, I was doing a lot around talent development, in particular for women and young women and diversity, equity, inclusion. And I couldn't do that as my full-time job. My full-time job was running a big business that was part of the bank. And yet I was so passionate about it and wanted to make a difference and an impact. And I realized I couldn't do that just by one-on-one mentoring. I mean, my calendar was full all the time. My assistant used to say to me, you can't do this many one-on-ones. But I wanted to, right? I wanted people I wanted to learn from them, and I wanted them to learn from me. And so I took that one-on-one and said, how do I go from one-on-one to one to many, to one to infinity, right? Where that connection and that propelling each other forward just happens. Mm-hmm. And I came home from a women's event, and I called my boyfriend, and he was like, you're talking so fast, write it down. I was like, write what down? I'm just venting. And he said, no, write it down. I think you have an idea. And 2 weeks later, I had a business plan. And I just knew there were different ways, not necessarily better ways, different ways to bring women, also other genders, into a physical room, now also a virtual room. And I thought we could do it differently. And that's what we set out to create.
Yeah. So you thought of like how to scale it, because you already had it on those one-to-ones. The idea and the concept was there. It was just like, how can I do this for more people at a time?
Exactly. And when we think about all of the women, right, just take women in the workforce, you've got thousands of women starting small businesses, right, every single day and month, particularly women of color. You've got all of these women, more than 50% of the workforce is women. You've got more than 50% of the graduates of college and secondary degrees as women. And so what are we doing to support them? And I'm not saying anything against men. It's just we are a big part of the population, and we're still not at the levels we need to be. We're still not paid where we need to be. And so that's why Luminary was created, to bring also the visibility that it's about business owners, it's about working moms, it's about bankers, it's about C-suite, it's about women just starting their career, those in transition. we tend to put women in boxes, right? Which creates a lot of barriers. And they all of these groups that exist can coexist, but Luminary really wanted to break down the barriers and say, come one, come all, because we can learn from each other. Just like I can learn from you, and everybody else in the community isn't just about learning from me.
Yes, I love that. And you mentioned men. And so I think it just makes sense to go into this part of our conversation. You've mentioned the need for men to be understanding and educated on women's topics and issues. What tips will you suggest to men to help bridge that gap? Additionally, what advice would you give to women founders entering into male dominating industries?
Yeah, I you know what I tell men all the time. I mean, listen, I had incredible male mentors throughout my career. And I had some not so great bosses in my career. By the way, those were men and women. And so I think for men, it's number one is listen and learn, right? Take the time to understand the challenges that the women you employ face. Number two, mentor women. Don't be afraid. Number three, sponsor them, raise their name when they're not in the room, bring up them to other managers and other leaders, investors, etc. And four, really take the time to open doors for the women in your network. On the flip side, for women that are entering, male dominated industries, whether that's just on the traditional career path or their founders, is you need men as much as you need women in your corner. We can't do it alone. It's why we are gender inclusive. And so as you think about who's on your cap table, who you're going to talk to for advice, make sure it's diverse, gender diverse, representationally diverse, thought diverse, because you need all of those perspectives as you're building your company or your career.
Yeah, that's such a great point, because I feel like a lot of people feel like we need to I want to really support women, right? So I want to make sure that they have this team of, and all of that is really great too. But like having that diverse group just to help you elevate yourself, you're going to need these experiences from everyone. I've even thought about that for myself and like trying to make sure I don't pigeonhole myself into like just thinking, oh, I need a sponsor in this bucket, but I need to make sure that I can so I think that's important.
Yeah. And I think that different.
Don't just think about that it's got to be the most senior woman, right? Yes. Because that's great. But by the way, you have to remember that most senior woman, if she's probably one of few, she's probably getting everybody asking her to support her. So great. But then you better be also asking the men, and I think men have to do a better job of putting themselves out there. And men, by the way, when we think of who's holding still the majority of leadership positions, women are promoted on performance. Men are promoted on potential. So men need to start looking at women differently, taking risks on them, even if they don't have all the skills. Look at me, right? Those men took risks on me, and you better believe I was going to work my butt off to make sure they look good because they took the chance on me.
Right.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to say at different points in your careers and different levels, you need different things from different people, whether it's like your colleague, your managers, and people in the C-suite. So it's like knowing who to go to for what.
Yeah. Exactly. And your network better be very broad and diverse. I just led a session today for several hundred women at one of our corporate members at Paramount Global. And that was one of the key messages, right? Your networks have to be super diverse and super broad, and not just in your own company, and not just founders. If you're a founder, you've got to spread and cast that net wide, because you never know, one, when you're going to need them, but also when they might need you. And it's a two-way street.
You're always dropping gems, Cate, every time I hear you speak. So let's talk a little bit about being an entrepreneur. So, as entrepreneurs, we all know there are things we know and there are things we don't know. And there are things we have to really figure out the hard way. Can you share, what was a challenge that you didn't know going into running your business, and how have you been able to navigate that since?
How hard it was going to be, honestly. I mean, I worked a lot of hours in my former life. And I was working for someone else, right? So, but I was also working for a very large salary and bonus, et cetera. So that is a big thing. I mean, I think I really underestimated how hard entrepreneurship is and lonely.
Yeah.
But tactically, one of the hardest things I think that for me was I was used to hiring bankers, right? That's who I hired for many, many, many years. And they were a certain profile, right? And they had certain skills. I think when I started Luminary, I had to really understand what I didn't know. I didn't know what marketing was, right? I'm a salesperson. I didn't know how running a physical space was going to be. I didn't know what kind of social platform. So really understanding what I didn't know and being okay with that. And then going back to your network, leaning on my network, people in my network that were in marketing or in learning and development, or were in social and digital, and saying, hey, I don't know what I'm hiring for. Can you help me? Hey, can you help me write a job description? Hey, can you tell me how much people are making in this job? And then last, can you interview them? Right. So surrounding myself and asking my network for those favors, right? It wasn't asking for money. It was asking for time. And I think because they believed in what we were building and the mission, it was an easy yes. And so I really learned very quickly, like, I didn't know what kinds of people, and you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. You just got to kind of make those mistakes and bounce back pretty quickly.
Yes, love that. And do you feel like you have much more peace of mind with where Luminary is now since like its inception?
I think it's a different mindset. I think when we first started, right, we're 4 years old. When we first started, it feels like 100. When we first started, it was that no one knows us, right? So it was kind of just like getting it out there. And we did that very organically, word of mouth. Then we're only 14 months old when the pandemic hit. Then we go right into a global pandemic, which was really keeping our head above water. Now we had a fantastic 2022, and now we're in a market downturn where a lot of our members are corporate, right? And they have budget challenges and they're pulling back. And so figuring out again which lever to pull when there are downturns and economic cycles. So obviously lots going on in the banking world too. So I think my mindset is different. Where I'm at now, obviously, is I'm less scared, but I always am paranoid, and not in a negative way, paranoid around the numbers, paranoid around we are only as good as our last opportunity, right? Constantly filling up the pipeline. I've not met an entrepreneur yet that says I'm not hustling every day. Right?
It's the reality.
Right. and so going back to that naive Cate a couple of years ago, it is not as, we look at this glamour and, oh my gosh, it's so amazing to be an entrepreneur. It is. But by the way, even those entrepreneurs that have sold their companies and made money and all that, they're still hustling every day. Right. That's just in them. Someone said to me, what happens if, you sold Luminary or whatever strategic opportunity comes up, what would you do next? And I said, I won't start another company.
That's interesting.
So that's where and I think that's just, we go through these, you guys know, ups and downs, not every once in a while, multiple times a day.
Absolutely. And it almost feels like a warm hug you just gave us for saying that out loud, because, different people in different levels of their career and entrepreneurship journey, it looks so different, but staying within the community and hearing these stories is so necessary.
Yeah, that's how we all learn. That's how we also for all the other entrepreneurs that come after us, knowing that they know that this isn't an easy journey, but they have help and they have resources and they can talk to someone and they can be honest. I was very honest in my corporate career, right? With people, how hard it was, how I didn't have the advantage of having that banking background. I was a woman, right? So I'm going to be that same person in my entrepreneurial life. And I think I have a bigger platform now than I did as a banker. And I'm using that to my advantage to spread knowledge and create opportunities for people to feel better about sharing their stories and owning their stories.
Love the transparency. Like, we are here for all of it. So a lot of people talk about building a business, right? But not enough, personally, I think not enough talk about sustainability. Can you share, like, what advice would you give to founders who are struggling to sustain and just kind of need some momentum to keep going forward?
So the way, and I'll be honest, what keeps me going, and I use this example quite often, I'm a huge sports nut. Like, I love sports. I grew up playing sports. I love sports. It's March Madness right now. Go Terps. And so a W is a W. A win is a win, no matter how small that win is. So take those small wins, even if you've got a big loss, right? Like, you've lost a client, you've lost an opportunity. Take that day, whatever it is, whatever way that win comes, and celebrate it, because all of those small wins add up to something bigger. And I think because of the media and social media, it seems like everything has to be huge, right? And it bothers me when I hear people saying to me, Cate, you're crushing it, you're killing it. That's what you see. You don't see all the shit behind it, right? You don't see the L's and the fact that there are lots of, we don't have always wins, but when you do have the win, you've got to take it. And my view is always, where there's a no, there's an opportunity. So I am relentless in that. You give me a no, I'm going to find a way to change your mind at some point.
Yes, I love that energy.
I'm like, who are you, Cate? I'm like here for all of that. No, seriously, because like I think whether you're an entrepreneur or corporate professional, looking at those wins are really hard sometimes. And it's like, you do think about the big picture and how you're not getting there. It's hard to look at the little things and know that they add up. So these reminders are really helpful.
Yeah. Right. And you got to share them too.
Yeah.
Don't keep them to yourself. Share them with your team, share them with your co-founder, share them with, who your mentor. Those wins that are adding up, a lot of times for women and women of color, feel like that's just what I do on a regular basis. You're right. But you've got to share your achievements, because no one else is going to be doing it for you or better than you. So we've got to get comfortable with this self-promotion and self-advocacy, and reminding ourselves that accomplishments don't speak for themselves, right? So you got to be out there, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you've got to be out there, and people need to know you and what you're adding to the world, what you're adding to that company, what you're adding to the organization you work for or with. And that is what I'm here for.
Yes, it reminds me of our episode we just did, Permission to Brag, a little further in season 6. All of this. So definitely check that out, everyone.
And I'll add, it's not bragging if it's based on facts.
Right.
And we women are so factual, right? We know this. It's like, I got to build my business case about why I need the raise or why I should get this money.
It's true.
And so they're all facts, right? So share those facts and own that you are kicking butt. And some days is harder than others, but you've got to share it.
Yeah. And in the days when it's hard, what do you tap into to keep going?
I have a great, I have lots of different, I would just call them friend groups or mentor groups. And, it changes. Some days I'll give you a great example today. We have one of our big corporate partners pulled a big part of their budget this morning. It was not a good conversation. I'm a small business that has a big impact. And so literally I was getting on the call with another corporate partner, which happens to be an incredible group of women that we work with. And they just let me talk about what's happening in the market. They let me talk about the challenges that we face as a business that's self-funded with no backing. And, sometimes it's just taking people that you trust and being open and honest and not worrying so much about what are they going to think of me? Because in that moment, what they see is you're human. We all need help sometimes. And then the next thing out of their mouth is, how can we help?
Oh, love that.
So that, and by the way, that's like, as you guys know, I mean, as entrepreneurs, that's like a daily occurrence because of those ups and downs. And so you can't be Teflon, but you've got to have a thick skin, and you've got to know when you can lean on people for support and ask for help.
Yes, because
I don't do it enough. I'll be very honest. That's just not how I was raised, and I'm learning. This morning was a good example.
Right. It's something you have to exercise, honestly, especially as entrepreneurs, because asking for help and like leaning on support, that gets tough.
Yes.
And it sounds foreign. So we're proud of you, Cate, for exercising.
We are so proud of you. So if you could give any piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Don't second guess yourself. I think in all meanings of that, whether it's the way you look, your weight, where you fit in, the skills that you have or don't have. I spent a lot of time in my life second guessing, was I good enough for someone? Was I good enough for a job? Was I, my everything about me externally? And I think if I could just go back to that middle schooler and teenager and say, you have so much and you will always have so much to offer this world. If you're true to yourself and your values, if you give it your all, if you are a good person, if you stand up for others. And by the way, my parents were telling me that,
right.
But
it hits different when
right. So I try now to impart that on all of my nieces and nephews, and I have 10 of them.
Wow.
That they bring so much to my world, and I'm one person. And so their sphere of influence, their impact can be so big, no matter what they do, what they look like, where they end up job wise, and to just don't second guess yourself.
I love that. The reminders and validation go so far. And sometimes people don't realize it could come from anywhere, and what much of a difference that can make.
Totally. Even just meeting you guys last week. I mean, meeting you guys in person. And, if I look at my life 5 years ago, this is so different. And so I would never have met you two.
That is so true.
Right. And that's like, I wouldn't have met thousands of people, but this is, this is where I'm supposed to be right now. And you also, I think, as you get older, you realize, sometimes everything, my mom would say to me all the time, everything happens for a reason. You never bolt by it. You're like, whatever, mom, she's right. She's right. And I just have to also go with it sometimes without trying to control everything.
Easier said than done.
Exactly.
But we'll add to, because I think this will impart so much more wisdom that you already are giving us. So we love your hashtag come sit at our table. Why was this particular hashtag important for you, and how has it resonated with the Luminary community? And I feel like we're sitting at your table right now, so it resonates so much for us.
Yeah, you're absolutely at the table. So, I think back, growing up, and I think most people feel this at some point in their life. They walk into the school cafeteria by themselves. They're in a new school, a new grade, and they don't know where to sit. And they're just searching for someone that they know, right? I mean, that was me in middle school and high school and college, my first job. And you always wanted someone to just say, here, come sit with me at my table, right? Welcome you in. And my mom taught me that really young, that I had to always do that. And no matter what the differences were. And so when we were literally brainstorming in my apartment, half of the team was built by that point. We were launching in a few weeks, and everyone was coming up with hashtags. And I just said, I want to create a table where everyone's welcome. And I want them to come sit at my table, and come sit at our table is the hashtag. And it means a lot to me, because I think of women of color in particular. I think of underrepresented communities, how isolated they have felt, particularly in their career, and that we have to make much bigger tables. And you are not going to lose out by bringing others with you. You are only going to gain. And so that's how I look at it.
No, you have such
I
a
love
great
it.
point. And also just realizing all of us being in that room for the summit and all being, quote unquote, at the table, so many of our stories were the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also why, and you guys were there, we don't have a stage. So we often get like, where's the stage? I'm like, there's no stage. We're all on a level playing field when you walk in our doors, right?
I
Like,
love that. I
there's
really
no
do.
stage. I don't need to elevate you. We're all should be elevated, all of our stories. So I think for me, it was, and anytime anyone says, I want to build the stage, we're like, then we're not the right partner for you. We don't want to do that. And by the way, the women that spoke absolutely have incredible experiences, but they're also aligned in our mission. And that's why they're speaking there.
We love that. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted you on our pod, because Luminary resonates so much with what our mission is and what we're trying to bring out there. So we just felt it was a perfect synergy. So we're at the end, which is crazy. We actually flew through this, which is great. But we have a couple more things to talk about. So first, your hashtag obsessed with. Is there anything, person, place that you are obsessed with right now that you want to share?
So it's going to kind of sound like I'm old. I just got a Kindle. So I'm an avid, voracious reader. I have been since I was little. And so I lug books around no matter where I'm going. And vacations, it'd be like 30 books in my bag. And I went to Africa at the end of the year with my boyfriend, and we went to Namibia, and he's like, you can't bring all these books. Like, we already have a weight limit. So did not want to get it. I got a Kindle, and now I am obsessed with it. I speed through books now on the Kindle. So I know I'm like way behind the times. People are like, you just got a Kindle, but
I'm guessing you love the feel of books. Yeah.
I do.
I was going to say, you're not behind. I don't have a Kindle and I love books.
Okay. But it's really, I am obsessed with it because then I don't have to worry about having a book. Like, I'm going to the airport after this. I don't have to worry. I can just grab my Kindle and download something. So I am obsessed with it.
Love it. What's a current read?
I'm just started a book called The Club. It was on Reese's list last year. I literally just started. I lived in London for 7 years, so I love books that take place in England, and this takes place in England. So The Club, but I can't say if it's good or bad yet, but because I'm on literally the first couple of pages.
Cool. Well, that's exciting to know. I love that.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. So we do have a fun game that we like to play before. The games are personal to each of our guests, but we just want to get to know you a little bit better. So Delaila, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So this one is called Kate's One Word. So Kate, what's your one word to describe being a founder?
Relentless.
That's a good one.
That is. What's your one word to describe being a woman?
Powerful.
That we are. One word to describe how you feel about your support system. It could be family, friends, etc.
Gratitude.
Nice. One word to describe how you feel doing your favorite self-care activity.
Well, it's sex. So sensual.
I love that.
Hey, get it in, Kate. One word to describe how you feel when you put on your favorite piece of clothing.
Also powerful. I love clothes. They make me who I am. I feel great when I have an amazing outfit on.
Kate has some great style, guys. She looks amazing for the summit.
And your dresses, your dress game.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little obsessed. I'm also obsessed with dresses. So.
And lastly, what's your one word to describe the impact Luminary has for the community?
Legacy.
Ooh, that is a great one. And that I'm sure you will leave behind because you're doing such amazing work, and it shows, and I feel like already are a product of that. So if this counts for anything, we are so happy to be in your presence and for you to join us and share your wisdom. We don't take it lightly.
And I'm so proud to have you in our community, and learn and get to know you guys, and really feel honored that you invited me on this amazing show.
Absolutely. So at the beginning of the episode, Delaila introduced you. We'd like for you to introduce yourself to our community and tell them where they can find you.
Sure. Cate Luzio, founder and CEO of Luminary, also the Glass Ceiling, which is our rooftop. And you can find me. The best place is actually LinkedIn, Cate Luzio, CateLuzio. It's my favorite platform. You can also follow me under the same name on Instagram, but those are the two platforms. And if you're looking to find Luminary, it's just weareluminary.com.
Nice. And anything upcoming that we should know or for people to tune into or anything like that you want to share?
Yeah, we've got Senator Gillibrand coming up, a fireside chat just around her and her career in politics. It's not a political conversation. It's about how she built her career. We've got an incredible rest of Women's History Month. I would just say, go check out on our events page. And we're getting back on the road. We were on the road in 8 cities last year, popping up and meeting our members and meeting business owners and professionals. And so we'll be hitting San Diego starting April 12th, and then Houston, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Atlanta, Miami, back to New York. So stay tuned for Luminary Live in your city.
Yes,
Amazing.
so exciting.
Thank you so much, Cate. This has been such a joy for us, and you've dropped so much knowledge in our community. So we know that this is going to be a really great episode for everyone to hear.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And that concludes, there you have it, ladies and gents, Cate Luzio, CEO and founder of Luminary.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.